If you want to create a changelog for your project, website, package, whatever it is, or you already have one inside of GitHub, let me show you in this video how we can take it from the GitHub API and bring it right on over to our Astro app and build that on a page. We can even have individual pages for each release that we have from GitHub. If this sounds interesting, give it a like, subscribe, and watch the rest of the video. And here inside of this GitHub repository for Limbo, if we click on releases, we can see all of the different releases here, and we can see they are carefully crafted with what's added, what's new, what's fixed, and how to get started and download this, including all of the assets and reactions. As we scroll through, we can see all of these, and if we give it a little tick, we will get updated data from the API. Now you might be wondering, what is a Astro Content Loader? Well, some of this will look familiar if you've used Astro in the past to find files inside of your directory for things like a blog. Well, actually, Astro extended this so we can now use data from other sources, and the amazing data content API that they have allows you to build your own custom loaders. And here is an example of the Astro Loader GitHub Releases. We can see here, if we scroll through, we can get a collection of different releases, pass it some different configuration, and get everything we need from the same page, the same data that we've seen inside of the GitHub repository for our releases. And we can see here there's all types of configuration that we can pass, and there is a schema that is fully typed. So that full end-to-end type safety is there for us, so we can build these safe and secure pages that don't fall down in production. Now let's actually get started with that data loader by installing it using npm. Once it's installed, inside of the source directory, we'll create the file content.config.ts. Inside of here, we'll define a new collection that will be GitHub Releases. Here we'll pass an object and we'll have to pass it the loader, and we'll need to import that loader that we've just installed, and then we can pass it different configuration. For the purposes of this tutorial, for load more, we can see here there are different options, but we'll just use repo list, and then for the mode config, we can pass the different repositories that we want to fetch data from. Here we'll just fetch data from the Terso Limbo repo. Now there is one extra step that you'll need to do in order to use this, and this is to generate a GitHub token so you can access the API. So if you head on over to GitHub, make a token, come back and add it into the env file. Don't forget, when you deploy these sites, you'll need to add that to whatever platform you're using. But if we actually run the Astro server now, we can see that GitHub is loaded for one repository, all of the data. And if we go inside of the .astro git ignored folder here, we can see a collection for the data that's inside of our repository, including the schema and its types, and of course, all of the data. Now let's head on over to the pages directory, create a folder for changelog, and add the file index.astro. Now you're probably already a step ahead of me if you've used content collections before, but inside of here we will update this page to include some markup that simply iterates through all of our different releases. Here we can see we don't have anything yet, and that's what we'll do now. At the very top, we'll import get collection and render from Astro content. With that, we can then import our layout, and then using get collection, we can get a collection of all of our GitHub releases that we can then iterate through. Now, if we scroll down, we can see that releases is fully typed. Then for each of these release, we have a formatted date, and then we link to each individual changelog page itself. And we can test all of this out by running npm run dev. We can see here things are looking great, and if we go back to the index now, we'll be able to see we have a list of all of our different GitHub releases on this page that is formatted. This looks pretty nice because we're using Tailwind with the typography plugin using the pros class, so I suggest you check that out. Link in the description on how you can set all of this up, or if you want to clone it and run this yourself, you can. Now the next thing we want to do is actually for the individual release pages. Here we can see we go to a 404, so let's fix that. We can create a new file, and inside of here, we can iterate through each of our collections, and we can generate some static paths for all of those pages. So again, very similar to the index, we'll import get collection and render from Astro content, and of course we'll need to import our layout. Then we can export that async function get static paths. Inside of here, we'll need to get all of our releases from the collection, and then we return a new map or a new array of all of our different releases, and this time we'll have the different props that it has and the slug for the page. And because this is a page for each individual GitHub release, here we'll need to destructure from the props, the release, that's what's given to us from getStaticPaths, and then we'll do a few other things like formatting that date once again. With that done, if we go back on over to the browser and we refresh the page for our individual release item, and here we can see we have the ID of the release. We now have all of the different content on the page with that formatted text, date, and the H1. Now if we go back to the index for our changelog and scroll down to another entry and we click on the date there, we go to that individual page for that GitHub release, which you can link to wherever you're promoting your GitHub releases. You now have a dedicated GitHub changelog and a page for each of the releases.